Before we get started, anyone interested in ordering Mr. Lindell's 4-CD set, go to metaphysicalarttheater.com. For those in the U.S., you can order physical copies or the digital downloads. For those outside the U.S., you can order the digital downloads by going to metaphysicalarttheater.com.
How you doing, sir?
Oh, just fine. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about the nasty word sin. And what we want to do is debunk that word, because I think there's a lot of negative connotation over the last 2,000 years plus. And so you and I both know that simply means missing the mark. But what does it mean to miss the mark?
Well, whatever you're going after, whatever you're looking for, or no, actually, you're not looking for it, because if you were looking for it seriously, you'd find it. You're told, seek and you shall find. So obviously, you're taking a wrong connotation of the word sin, which, like he said, is just missing the mark. And missing the mark is that you keep looking on the without for help, and all the help you need is nearer than hands and feet. So that's the mistake that you're making by seeing it as something on a negative. It's just letting you know what you're thinking feelingly about is what you're receiving. So what are you thinking feelingly about? Because that's what you will be receiving, because, as we've said 1,000 times, you're always thinking ahead of your evidence. Is that not so?
That's so, and I'm glad that you brought it down to earth, because it really is practical when we think about even the term sin. It's just like you say, that it's us missing the mark. But if we're not thinking ahead of our evidence consciously, if we're not aware, if we're not awakened to what it is that we're giving our attention to, then of course we could be missing the mark all day long. Or in other words, we could be in a life of sin because we're not getting what it is that we want, because we haven't, as you said earlier, we haven't sought it.
Yes, that's true, but you're getting what you're thinking.
Yeah.
You understand that you're experiencing what you're thinking. As to whether it's positive or negative, that's your call. You're the one told to choose. It didn't tell me to choose for you or anyone else to choose for you. It tells you to do the choosing. And the fact is that you're on all the time, so you are choosing even if you're unaware of it. Isn't that so?
It is so. It is so. And that's the thing. You stated it. We're always choosing. So whether we're aware or unaware, a choice is being made. And somebody says, well, I don't want to make a choice. Well, even in not making a choice, you're making a choice.
Well, but if you don't choose, you're getting chosen by the world around you. And that's the biggest complaint I had in private interviews. The people who come in and they say they feel like they don't have a life. Everything seems to be chosen for them. You follow this regulation, that regulation, and then on and on and on and on, and there's no time for self. We tell people to go sit in a silence, but they don't feel like they don't have the time. But I'll tell you, there will come a time when you will have the time to sit in the silence and actually discern what you're literally thinking about morning, noon, and night. And then just ask yourself, is this really what I want to carry on with? Because if it isn't, then I better stop thinking about it and think of something else. I mean, that's really what it's all about, isn't it?
It is. You said something. You said there will come a time that you will find yourself sitting in the silence and contemplating your life, for example. And the thing is, there will, in fact, become a time. And a lot of times, body forces upon us things that we won't do for ourselves, like rest, for example. The person that fails to rest, all of a sudden he or she will get sick, and all of a sudden now they're forced to rest.
Yeah, I know about going without sleep. And this is something that happened long years ago in service, but the thing of it was that hadn't had any sleep for I think 3 days, 3 whole days really. And I walked out, the air hit me on the face, and I just blacked out. And I just clumped. So I know that you do need your rest. I mean, I know that what they tell you to get rest, but you know, rest is not just sleeping. It's being at rest. And that is a very difficult thing for most people to get to that at rest. Because if you don't, you are at risk. Isn't that so?
It is so. You know, you said, you know, rest itself is not sleeping alone. And far too often we can be asleep, as it were, and our mind can be racing with all types of cares and concerns and so forth. So we wake up tired.
You bet. It sure is. If you wake up tired, that's what you were doing, wrestling all night. Yeah. And you lost. I'm just telling you what I know from experience. And I can laugh about it now, but it left me frustrated when it happened. And I didn't really deal with it at the time. You see, that's what we don't do. We don't really deal with what we know we need to deal with. And then it kind of festers into a frustration, and you don't know which way to go next. And if you find yourself in that spot, then do what we're always suggesting. Go sit in the silence and discern. What am I generally, most of the time, thinking, feelingly about? That's just a simple question. What are you thinking about most of the time? That is your life. If you want to change it, you're given to do so. You're told very simply, change your mind, change your world, and that means that the first, when you change your mind, that changes your world. See, it's not, there's no work for you to do in making the changes except in your mind of imagination. You must see yourself doing, being, having your ideal, and really make a thing of feeling it. Because look, all the help you need is nearer than hands and feet, and it's ready to answer your call. Subconscious mind is never going to question you as to what you're thinking about, but it's going to make your world in accordance. You can believe that, right?
Yes. And the thing is, subconscious mind's only response to us is yes. So whatever it is that you're thinking about, you know, a young lady in our group had manifested a large sum of money, but after she had manifested that large sum of money, she also received this second-degree burn on her arm. And she says, why did the second-degree burn happen? But then she said, thereafter, every time I have these great manifestations, I also face some type of challenge.
Bingo.
Absolutely. That was her self-talk. Yeah.
Bingo. You got it. That's it. That's exactly it. And, you know, people will say, but I don't know how to think like that spiritually stuff. You are spirit.
Yeah. You
are thinking spiritually every moment of time because you're directing something. So you are acting from the power to manifest your world as it is right here, right now. But you're also given choose. And that's a new choose because it's this day. And it's always this day. And you're always choosing. But are you aware of what you're choosing? And in case you aren't aware of what you're choosing, just stop and look at what you are experiencing, because that's what you were choosing to think about, to feel about, because that's it. Feeling is the secret. Whatever you feel, your world is experiencing, and you're experiencing with it. And that's all there is to it. You change your mind, you change your world. Isn't it that simple?
It is that simple. You made a point about look at your life. You know, we will often call your life the fruits that it's bearing. But when you look at the results of your life, you can know your past choices. Now, some people will get into this overthinking and try to process the moment that they thought a thought that led to the. You're not going to always figure out, nor should you sit there and spend time in trying to figure out what got you to this point. The key is, since you're at this point, where do you want to go from here? Your next thought will determine that direction.
Drop it.
Yeah.
That's it. If it isn't pleasant, drop it. Forget it. Learn from it. Think of something else. You can choose your next thought. You can. People tell me, oh, who can do that? That's what you're doing. Whether you're aware or not, you are choosing your next moment. But if you're unaware that you're making a choice and you're suffering the consequences of whatever choice you made and you don't like it, change your mind, change your world. It's that simple. If you'll keep it simple, you'll remember it. And that was the biggest problem I had, was keeping something simple. I would go off this way and off that way and have all kinds of frustrations about what could be or might be. Yeah. And when you do that, the whole thing is just nothing. Nothing is accomplished worthy of your attention. And what has your attention does have your life. So you want to focus on what has your attention, and then ask yourself, is this what I want to do? If this is not what I'm looking for, if this is not what I want, then why am I talking about it? Because it says, as you think you are. So if you're thinking that way, then you are that way. It's just as simple as that, isn't it?
It is. You know, you ask the question, if it's not what it is that you want, why are you talking about it? And then you also say prior to that, drop it. Now, many people will say, well, dropping it isn't easy. Now, the thing is, if that's our conversation and we say to ourselves, dropping isn't easy, then of course for us, dropping becomes not easy and sometimes impossible. But if we begin changing our self-talk and also our practice, get in the habit of thinking about various thoughts and letting them go and replace them with a new thought. That's the act of dropping them. So if you get in the habit of just practicing dropping things that are insignificant, that don't matter, it'll become easier when you're dealing with the bigger challenges.
Yeah, it's easier than chasing dinosaurs.
Absolutely.
Well, that's it. Yeah. I mean, look the good side. Like I said, it's better than going out and hunting a dinosaur. I mean, come on. Let's face it, we got it pretty easy now, but don't let the easy override your common sense. Yeah. Well, I know common sense ain't really all that common today, but I mean, the point is that you're on all the time. Really, not when you're talking to somebody outside. You're on all the time. You're talking to yourself. You're suggesting to yourself. You're making up a little, running, your mind on whatever's just flowing through. But that's not really productive of accomplishing something. And you can do so. And people tell me, well, but I can't sit still that long. No, you just haven't sit still that long. But I could tie you to the chair, and you'd sit there as long as I have you tied to the chair. So you actually can sit there. Well, you might be worrying about everything else in the world, but the point is that if you have a desire to do this, to know first person, I mean, all we've all gotten is just hearsay. Now, what you pick out of that hearsay and do, that's your life of experiencing. But you do have choice. Understand, That's the miracle of it all, is that you have a choice. And you can even make a negative choice, or you can make a positive choice. And you're given choose. What are you choosing? See, that's a question. It'll ring in your ear quite a bit if you really are interested. It'll keep reminding you that you're talking to your future right now. But what future are you going to experience if you experience what you're thinking about? Is it going to be lovely and a good report? Which that was what we were told to think upon. It says, and it actually says, think only on things that are lovely and of good report. The only, because if you get off thinking about the negative, then you experience the negative, because it's you in it thinking from it. That's the whole thing. What are you thinking from? I know what you're thinking of, but what are you thinking from? That's what you are. Isn't that the way it goes?
That's the way it goes. And you spoke about, first of all, that we operate from hearsay till it becomes our say through experience. And I find that far too many people are stuck in the realm of hearsay. You know, Dr. Murphy said, Neville said, Lindell said, and so they can quote what everybody else is saying, but I always inquire, but what are your experiences? Because that's what matters. But then you go on to speak about, us in this experience, and operating, thinking from and not thinking of. And as we begin to think of, you says, no matter what we're thinking of, if we're not thinking of lovely and good report, then that's what we're manifesting, the not lovely and good report. And so if I'm thinking on that, and that's my primary, at that point, if that's what I'm giving my attention to, and that's what I want to give my attention to, let's say the negative, then even the negative isn't a sin if that's what you're giving your attention to purposely. So we're given, as you often say, to choose this day, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yes, just understand, like you say, a thought gives you a feeling. And that feeling felt is going to be your experience. And you can say, but I didn't want this. Well, then drop it. Let it go. See, that's the problem. Yeah, we all have problems, but, you don't have to suffer them. God told you, you turn to me, I'll turn to you. And so there's the invitation. I mean, why wouldn't you take that invitation? I mean, if God turns to you, then what's your problem? What could possibly be your problem? He's love. Are you loving? See, you draw to you what you are, how you think you are. And all the help you need to change is nearer than hands and feet, because that's thinking also. And it's as you think you are. And you have the power of thought, not a power, not a little power. It's the power. And that was very difficult to even talk about. The power. That's what you're operating. Because there's only one. There's only God. And he's dreaming the dream, and he gave the dreamers the ability to dream the dream. And you're told to dream the dream. Get off into nightmares, then you experience those. It's just a poor choice. That's all. Your whole life is either a great choice or a poor choice. Isn't that really it?
It is. It is. You said that the person says, that's not what I wanted. They were thinking a thought, and of course that thought materialized in their world, and they said that's not what they wanted. And it goes back to what you're saying, whatever it is that you're giving your attention to, you said that you're drawing that thing to you by way of your thoughts. So we have to be mindful, as you so often say, what it is that we're giving our attention to, because if it's not what we want, then that's the sin. It's just being off track. So the key is Don't make it difficult, but simply begin thinking about feelingly what you want.
Yes, every thought is either freedom or you're just confining yourself and you're denying yourself and you're feeling bad about yourself. And that's ridiculous. God made you, and then he gave you choose this day. What's your problem? I mean, really. I know what your problem is because I had it myself for many, many, many years, too many years. And even when I heard what you're hearing right now, I agreed with it. I every time I heard it, I agreed with it, and I would say, "Well, I know that." See, if you haven't experienced it, you don't know it. You only know about it, and you will experience it if you don't stop feeling, "I am my dream, my wish." What is it? Do I really even know that? And if you don't know what you want, how are you going to get it? I mean, you wouldn't even know if you got it. That's it. You do got it, but you don't recognize it. And that's why he left us a remembrancer. Because when you remember the how of it, then you'll do it. But to remember the how of it, you have to hear it over and over and over. I mean, many times. And if you were totally conditioned to the world of experiencing, and you are told to be in the world, but not to be of the world, man, mind, reasoning, in its lower order, of course, but you're given. Feel after what you're looking for, and you'll find that it's looking for you. If you don't quit, it'll find you. Look at it this way. Every time you think of your dream, your mission, your goal, it's a brick, and another brick, and another brick. And you can build a wall. That's what you're doing. You're building your future as you think you are. It's your future. In other words, remember, we're told every word must be accounted for. It has a weight in the matter. Maybe a limited weight in the matter, but it still gives a sentence a certain feeling, and that certain feeling that it gives you is what you're working on. So just change the mark of thinking. That's all you have to do, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, I remember in school, we would have target practice. So we would have this big old hay target, and of course it'd have a dark sign on it. And, you know, once we shot the arrow down range, what would happen is you would either be on target or off target. And then what you do is basically readjust. So you're absolutely correct. You have to reevaluate if what you have in your life right now isn't on target, then you begin thinking thoughts that will take you closer to your target. And it just goes back to what Mr. Lindell stated. You know, we're always thinking ahead of the evidence. So why not target the evidence towards what it is that we desire?
Yes. If you don't take charge, you get Maggie's drawers.
You went way back in the archive to get that one, didn't you?
Yeah. I remember it on the fighting firing range out there. That was that's what they were waving down there.
Yeah, that flag, that white flag. And for those that don't understand the statement, Maggie's drawers, when we were in target practice in the military, they would have this flag that they would wave. And when you just missed the target, they would wave that white flag saying that you missed everything. And of course, they call that Maggie's drawers. So if you don't stay on target, you get Maggie's drawers. That was just a term in target practice for those who may not be aware.
Yeah. But that's what missing the target is.
It is.
I mean, you can do it. You can do it from habit. See, that's the problem. Yeah. You're not actually thinking about it. You're actually doing it by habit.
Yeah.
You're thinking thoughts by habit, and you can break a habit, and you can do so, but it takes the effort to make a decision to do so. You have to make the decision. I start now. You have to start now, because it's always now. So, in other words, just get started.
Yeah.
Because nothing's accomplished until you get started, right?
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that we're talking about getting started. In order for change to take place, there has to become, as Mr. Lindell just stated, a change of habit. Many times people take, Neville's statement of don't lift a finger, but when you change your mind, lifestyle follows. You're not going to change your mind and keep doing the exact same things that you've done. Otherwise, your mind really hasn't changed. Now, what we're not saying is that you try to manipulate the bridge of incident. That's not your business. That's God's business, how the desired change is going to come about. But we have to get into the state. You often say something, I want to repeat it. You say that you don't get what you want, you get what you expect. And that's so true. Many people want things, but they don't expect that they'll ever have them. So, of course, they never manifest them.
That's self-denial, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, that's pure and simple. That's self-denial. See, look, people are blaming God for things that are happening to them, and yet he's told that they themselves are makers of themselves. In other words, you're drawing to you what you're thinking. It's new then. But if you're looking for help on the without, it's rarely available, and without a steep price generally. When you can do everything you want to do, all within yourself, in imagination, in the theater of mind, that's why you have such. And you're given to use it. And we're told that worshiping God is using his gifts. And his gifts to you, choose this day. And how do you do it? In imagination. You see yourself in the act of being, I am that, your dream. And you're told to dream the dream. You're also told that if the people fail to dream, they start to die. And it's very obvious. But you don't want to see it because you don't want to experience it, but you are experiencing it because you're thinking about what you don't want to see. It goes something like that, doesn't it?
It does, and you said something about, if you want to experience the change, you start doing so in your imagination. Let me go back to what Mr. Lindell stated earlier. You're on all the time. Why do I say that? You're doing what he's telling you to do anyway. The question is, what are you saying? I am that in my imagination. I'll never amount to anything. I'm not smart. I'll never have enough money at the end of the month. Life is hard. Every time I manifest something good, something bad happens. My whole point is you're using these laws all the time. Only thing that we're asking you to do is to be self-directed towards what it is that you truly desire.
Right. Pay attention. Right. I mean, very plainly, we're told that what has your attention has your life. What are you giving your attention to? You see, even if you were with Daniel in the lion's den, you see, you would turn your back on the lions. That's what you're doing. You're turning your back to the lions. You hear their message out here. They're growling at you, but you can still turn your back on it. You see, it isn't real unless you feel it to be real, because it's as you think you are. That's not talking about somebody else around you. That's talking about how you think and feel. That's your life of experiencing. unless you take somebody else's thought. But that's what you're to be careful of, because sometimes when you're not actually choosing something, you're not actually denying it. And so therefore, it could slip in unnoticed. And that's probably most people are living a life of what they don't notice, because it's face up to you all the time. It's as you think you are. You can't lay it out on somebody else. It doesn't work. It's as you think you. God's not making you as somebody else thinks, unless you're taking their thought.
Yeah.
See, that's what you want to be careful of. You can easily have somebody say things and you'll accept it without any investigation at all. And if you would investigate what you're hearing from without, 90% of it, you would, well, actually more than that, but you wouldn't even deal with it at all. And that's what we're looking for, people who want to know first person. And to know first person, you have to think from first person. Not what's going on out there, but what's going on in you. Because that's your life of experiencing, regardless of what you're doing out there. Because that's already called forth in your thinking and feeling. As you think you are, you do, you have, you be. So watch what you're thinking, wouldn't you say?
I would. And I want to go back to something you said. You said, you're called to think first person, think your own thoughts, unless you choose to think other people's thoughts.